Most of the great cities in the world are tourist meccas, drawing hordes of visitors, getting written up in travel magazines and being featured on a number of television shows as a backdrop to the storyline. But occasionally, one runs across a treasure that is yet to be widely acclaimed and that is truly a great find and can lead to some of the best travel experiences imaginable. Jaisalmer is one of those rare finds. Join us today as we remove the veil from one of the truly wondrous cities of the world, Jaisalmer, India's hidden gem.
Namaste. I'm Bill Ball, and I'm going to be your guide on this episode of Journeys in India. And this is India.
When Mark Twain traveled through India at the turn of the 19th century, he wrote that India is the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, the great-grandmother of tradition. Our most valuable and most instructive materials in history are treasured up in India only. Join us each week as we explore the entire Indian subcontinent, from Kerala in the south to the Himalayas in the north and all points in between. We'll introduce you to the architecture, history, and culture of one of the most exotic, mysterious, and influential places on Earth. Journeys in India.
Well, we've got an adventure and a half for you today. We're going to visit the city of Jaisalmer, the only living fortified city in all of India. And then it's to the Thar Desert. We're going to learn how the people and the wildlife live in what seems an insurmountable odds. And finally, we're going to learn to cook a couple of Rajasthani dishes. So it's time, so let's get going.
But where to get going? Jaisalmer doesn't make it on all or even many tourist itineraries, which quite frankly is a shame. It is one of those most unique cities of the world. Jaisalmer is located in the state of Rajasthan at the edge of the Thar Desert. Thar, by the way, means abode of death, which might be the reason it doesn't end up on many Indian itineraries. But it has actually been on a traveler's itineraries for centuries, as this city was a wayside on the Silk Road.
To the early camel caravans of the Silk Road era, the site of Jaisalmer Fort must have been both foreboding and welcoming. Welcoming in the sense that they knew they could get supplies after weeks in the desert. Foreboding because they knew they would have to pay taxes just to pass through the area. But in either case, this was the first step in foreigners visiting this magnificent city.
We're kind of jumping ahead of ourselves here. The first step for Silk Road traders or modern tourists is getting to Jaisalmer, and that's not easy. The nearest airport is in Jodhpur, which is 287 kilometers or 178 miles away. You could take the train for 10 hours. Second class is hard benches, so beware, or a public bus, which is even more rustic, but can make for great stories later. Or best of all, hire a driver as we did. The cost is relatively minimal and provides great comfort and a quicker ride. Even if you hire a driver, don't be tempted to drive from Jodhpur straight to Jaisalmer. There is much going on along the road, and it would be a shame to miss any part of real-life India that is all around you. In fact, before you leave the Jodhpur area, you should spend some time in this exceptional city as well. Just minutes from the airport, Jodhpur's great medieval fort dominates the landscape with its massive 400-foot-high cliffs and 6 miles of walls, broken by 8 monumental gates. Rudyard Kipling said the fort was the creation of angels, fairies, and giants. The fortress was so strong that the mighty Mughals, who had captured all the land around Jodhpur, could not take the city by force. Today, that incredible defensive wall and the city inside is a museum that can be captured by anyone who wants an adventure into history. It might be hard to pull yourself from Jodhpur, but remember, we have to head down the road to Jaisalmer. Local markets spring up in many of the small villages that are located strategically on this lifeline of commerce, once called the Silk Road and now simply the highway. These little markets carry a wide range of goods to cover the needs of both village dwellers and the nearby farmers. Talking of farmers, the markets have every kind of locally grown produce fresh off the vine, tree, or bush. From cucumbers to mangoes to gunda, a Rajasthani specialty, to eggplant or bringal as it is known here. The market may not look fancy, but the shoppers are fussy and only the best, freshest produce is sold. Markets aren't the only reason to take your time following the road to Jaisalmer. Probably the best reason to slow down is to people watch. Rajasthan is a diverse mix of people, and nowhere is that more evident than here. Tribes, ethnic groups, city folk, and farmers all mix, creating the colorful fabric of life that is India. The last reason for stopping is the oldest, to buy something unique. I can't pass up on an opportunity to own an art piece or an artifact that adds a little spice to my collection. Our driver knows some people in a village along the way and suggests that we stop. This is one of the joys of traveling with a tour group or with a professional guide: interaction with the locals. What I didn't expect was to become part of the village so quickly. One of the huts had some structural damage and had to be fixed. Another hand to lift the roof was needed, so I joined in. I guess it's always good to have a fallback career. This little village was planning a special event, a wedding, and this is the blushing bride-to-be. The parents' house is specially decorated for the wedding with a traditional floor painting. The parents sit on one side of the design, while the bride and groom sit on the other. To visit a Rajput village and be part of their lives, if only briefly, is a privilege and should not be taken lightly. If you get a chance to visit a traditional village, always ask for permission before entering huts or photographing the people. Most welcome you like a long-lost friend or even family. This is what travel is all about: connections. I was invited inside the guest house to take a look at its construction. Like many of the homes in the village, the walls are half clay and half manure, with sticks and straws used as a binding material. Surprisingly sturdy, waterproof, and cool, I was half thinking of staying until I realized that dinner, lunch, and even breakfast would be millet, their main crop. My very carnivorous stomach wasn't really excited about that. It wasn't long after we left the Rajput village that we arrived at our hotel. Nirvana Nature Resort is a luxury tented camp, but that really doesn't do it justice. These royal shikar tents have been handcrafted using natural local materials. The tents are on raised marble platforms with both cooling for the hot desert days and heating for the cool desert nights. They have private bathrooms and 24-hour hot and cold water and electricity. The luxury doesn't end there. A high-end modern dining hall is provided for guests, and a lovely pool beckons the would-be swimmer. Since Nirvana is actually set on a working farm, the food is organic with fresh dairy and poultry products. Even a carnivore can appreciate that. I was lucky enough to catch the resort's manager and daughter of the founder. I had heard the resort was eco-friendly and helped the local villages, and I needed to know the meaning behind its name, Nirvana.
First off, when we drove in, I noticed we drove through what looked like a farm. Is that correct? Is this surrounded by a farm?
Yes, the resort is actually surrounded by a farm. The farm is 109 acres, and the resort is a part of the farm. That's where it gets its name from, Nirvana Nature Resort.
What is Nirvana?
Nirvana is basically an illusion. We have used two words. Nirvana becomes Nirvana and Mirage. So we want our guests to experience Nirvana in a mirage.
Now, I've been walking around. I've noticed that there are solar panels up in different places. Obviously, you're trying to take advantage of the sun. You're doing some eco-friendly things here, also with water too. Tell me about that.
We're very recently trying to go completely solar. We started with the water, hot water. Instead of having geysers and other electric devices to heat the water, we did this solar system to heat the water. And another was we had boilers, which you burn wood fire to use to heat the water. So we have both of them, which are both very eco-friendly. And we are conserving water in the farms. We use drip irrigation and sprinklers only. That controls the water, and the plant gets only as much water as they need, so no water is really being wasted. What we've done is we also reuse the water that has been used in all the rooms. They go separately into another tank, which is around 30 feet deep. The water is recycled over there and it is used again for the farm after some time. We're doing that with the water in the swimming pool as well.
I only had one thing left for the day, get some shut-eye. Tomorrow would be a very full day exploring Jaisalmer and the desert around us. My local guide told me that we had something special to see before we entered the great city walls. I was beginning to wonder if I would ever get to Jaisalmer, but boy was I glad I listened and took the short detour. I have seen a lot in my travels around the world, but this is something not to be missed. First of all, let me tell you what this is. It is called the Garsar Tank. Located about a half a mile from the fort, it played primarily the most vital role in the life of the city. This natural depression was dammed to collect and save every valuable raindrop. Remember, we are in a hot, dry desert, and water is what makes or breaks a city here. Until 1965, this lake was the town's main source of water, and ladies in lovely saris would come twice a day, morning and afternoon, to fetch water. The Garsar tank is named for the far-sighted ruler Marawaho Garsar, who in 1367 built it for the town. Not to say he and his family didn't use it too. He constructed a special balcony over the lake so he could have boat rides during the monsoon season. Hey, why let water go to waste? Because of the importance of water, along the banks of the tank are several temples, mostly dedicated to Vishnu and Lord Shiva. This temple, for instance, is for Shiva. The worshippers ring the bell to awaken the gods before entering the inner sanctum. Here, prayers and meditation are the order of the day. The entrance gate for the temple area has a very interesting story attached to it. This gate, known as the Tilan Gate, was named for a famous court dancer and concubine. She was able to save a small fortune by, it was said, using her charm and expressive dances for the Maharaja. She used some of the money to construct a gate to the tank. The queens of the court were furious that a dancer, who was equated with the lower classes, would have paid for a gate that royalty had to cross. The ladies of the court pressured. The Maharaja ordered its destruction. But Tilan was not to be outdone by the queens. She consulted the holy men, or Brahmins, who gave her a solution. Put a statue of Vishnu on the top of the gateway, and it couldn't be torn down. She did, and the gate remains to this day. I know what you're thinking. Pretty cool architecture. Nice historic site with a fascinating tale of a court dancer. But with the buildup I gave it, there has to be more. Well, there is. The tank has a large, well, more like gigantic, population of catfish. They are unbelievable in numbers, size, and voracious appetite. Feeding them is considered good luck, so I should be set for the rest of the trip. These fish are really something.